Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're uncovering how the world's most famous underdog story is actually a profound biblical blueprint for resisting systemic empire and hubris. Seriously, it's about to change how you read this text entirely.
So let's dive right in and fundamentally rethink everything we thought we knew about David and Goliath. We so often treat it as just this simple children's story about bravery, right? But the academic research we're looking at today suggests something far more revolutionary. What if David isn't just a brave kid with a sling, but rather the ultimate prototype for how the small, the vulnerable, and the overlooked are positioned to dismantle towering systems of pride? It's literally a strategic blueprint.
Section 1. The Logic of Height, the Battlefield and the Pride of Empire.
Okay, let's play the storyteller for a second. Step into the dust of 1 Samuel 17 with me to witness a sheer clash of ideologies. On one hand, you've got Goliath. He's 6 cubits tall, layered in 5,000 shekels of heavy scale armor, and wielding a spear like a weaver's beam. He's this living, breathing monument to military supremacy and imperial hubris. He relies entirely on vertical mass to intimidate and dominate. But then, there's David. His approach is the exact opposite. He's completely unarmored, relying on horizontal agility, speed, a precision sling, and most importantly, covenantal dependence on his God. It's not just a mismatch of size, it's a massive collision of 2 entirely different ways of wielding power in the world.
And right before stepping onto the battlefield, David makes this bold, defiant choice. He strips off King Saul's heavy bronze helmet and coat of mail. Now remember, Saul is famously a head taller than anyone else in the kingdom, and he wants to fight height with height. But by rejecting that armor, David makes the ultimate performative refusal. He dismantles the enemy's vertical logic, basically saying, "No, I refuse to play by your rules." He totally challenges classical ideals of imperial strength just by choosing to remain small and agile.
And this brilliance extends to his strategic resistance. He doesn't just pick up one lucky stone, right? He carefully selects 5 smooth stones from the brook. Why 5? Well, because he's preparing for sustained readiness against a systemic threat. He knows that the logic of height is rarely defeated in a single, one-and-done moment. It takes a practiced, precision instrument to dismantle towering pride over the long haul.
Now, to understand how this singular battle ripples through the rest of the Bible, we need to zoom out using an academic framework called canonical rhetorical criticism. I know, sounds like a mouthful, but it simply means we trace how key patterns, like this dramatic clash between towering pride and humble dependence, migrate, intensify, and reach fulfillment across the broader canon. So David isn't just an isolated historical hero here, he becomes a massive theological archetype for the rest of the scriptures.
Section 2. The Shift to Communal Vocation, the Systemic Threat in 2 Samuel 21.
So watch what happens when we arrive at 2 Samuel 21. The text reveals that Goliath was actually not an isolated anomaly. He was part of this recurring lineage of overreach. And here is where things get really fascinating. Defeating the giants shifts from a solitary hero's triumph to a communal vocation. Years after that famous showdown in the valley, the giant threat returns, but this time, David isn't fighting alone. His mighty men, Abishai, Sibbecai, Elhanan, and Shimei, they have to step up and dismantle the structural threat together. The singular act of resistance we saw earlier becomes a shared calling. It proves a fighting empire, yeah, that absolutely requires a community.
And we have to talk about this final warrior, this bizarre polydactyl giant. And yes, that literally means he had extra fingers and toes. 6 on each hand, 6 on each foot. This 24-digit anomaly is this grotesque, counterfeit parody of the 12-tribe completeness of Israel's covenant. You see, the empire always tries to mock the true design, but when the community finally defeats him, they are quite literally restoring the proper liturgical order of things. They're tearing down a ridiculous system of pride.
Tracking this theme forward, the Davidic archetype evolves through prophetic literature, constantly reinforcing a theology of weakness where the faithful triumph through humble dependence. It starts with David, the small shepherd, and then moves to Isaiah 11, where hope emerges, not as some towering tree, but as a vulnerable shoot from a stump. This then culminates in the suffering servant of Isaiah 53. We even see this exact pattern in the royal Psalms. The Davidic king constantly moves from profound lament and vulnerability straight into vindication and universal praise. It's a clear message. God works through the small.
Section 3. Mary's Song of Divine Reversal, the lyrical climax in the Gospel of Luke.
This entire ancient canonical trajectory
reaches its absolute lyrical climax in the New Testament. And who is it with? A young, marginalized woman living under Roman imperial occupation. In Luke chapter 1, Mary declares, "He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty." Her Magnificat serves as the ultimate declaration of the theological concept of divine reversal. It echoes all the way back to David's sling. Think about it. Living under the shadow of Rome, Mary completely rejects its towering monuments and military legions. Instead, she identifies herself as God's servant, which draws directly on those Isaianic overtones we talked about. She parallels Hannah's ancient song from 1 Samuel 2, and she celebrates fulfillment through humble obedience, not military conquest. What you should take away from this is that Mary is the ultimate Davidic heir. She proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that God's preferred method of overturning imperial pride is through the scandal of the small, the vulnerable, and the overlooked.
Section 4. Ancient Theology, Modern Resistance, Facing Today's Giants.
Now, we have to ask how this relates to contemporary struggles against systemic marginalization. Because honestly, this ancient theology isn't just history, it's a live critique of modern political empire, institutional arrogance, and economic self-sufficiency. The research neutrally highlights how this narrative inspires a transdiasporic lament, a shared grief and resistance across displaced and marginalized communities today. It connects incredibly deeply with Black maternal theology. From the hush harbors of enslaved America to the platforms of the mothers of the movement, the Davidic witness continues to empower those, especially mothers, who refuse to let empire have the final word over their children.
The small one shall become 1,000. This repeated, rhythmic pulse across our explainer reminds us of one absolutely crucial point. True greatness in the divine economy always belongs to the humble. It's an enduring promise, one that echoes all the way from the plains of Elah to the womb of Mary and into every single generation that finds itself facing systematic giants.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final thought. The canonical record makes it abundantly clear. The tall fall, but the small one is lifted up. So, if the Davidic blueprint proves that the small and faithful will outlast the tall and proud, what towering giants are we called to face together today? What modern imperial structures are you and your community uniquely positioned to dismantle? Keep that in mind as you look at the world around you. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.